As President Trump weighs U.S. involvement in strikes on Iran, experts say a massive bunker buster bomb is likely the only weapon capable of destroying a key Iranian nuclear facility. But as CNN's Brian Todd reports, even this massive bomb may not be able to penetrate Iran's Fordo fuel enrichment plant, which is carved into a mountain and extends deep underground.
It's a sophisticated, frightening piece of weaponry designed to hit targets like some of Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities deep underground.
They're buried so deep, and no other bomb would be able to certainly destroy them.
The GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, also known as the Bunker Buster, the largest non-nuclear bomb in the U.S. military's arsenal. Designed, the Air Force says, to reach and destroy weapons of mass destruction in well-protected facilities. The Bunker Buster is roughly 20 feet long, weighs 30,000 pounds, with 6,000 pounds of high explosives. The Israelis don't have them, nor the means to deliver them. Only the U.S. does, and there is no public record that they've ever been used in combat.
The United States has never encountered a target that required a bomb of this size. We have other very, very large bombs, such as the Moab, which is the mother of all bombs, as they say.
That mother of all bombs, weighing more than 21,000 pounds, was dropped by U.S. forces on ISIS targets in Afghanistan in 2017. But the Bunker Buster, even heavier. Experts say the Bunker Buster has a thick, hard shell designed to withstand the impacts of the ground and plunge to the depths it needs to reach, with explosives in a fuse that also needs to be robust enough to penetrate the ground. The Bunker Buster doesn't have the biggest blast area, experts say, because it's designed to burrow into the ground before exploding. The only plane that can carry the Bunker Buster, the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, flown by a two-pilot crew, capable of flying about 6,000 nautical miles without refueling and eluding an enemy's most sophisticated defenses. The likely target of the Bunker Buster, if the U.S. were to get involved in this conflict, Fordo, an Iranian nuclear enrichment site buried deep under a mountain, beneath possibly 300 feet of rock. A key question, could the Bunker Buster really damage Fordo significantly? Experts say the Bunker Buster can penetrate about 200 feet into the ground, maybe more. But if the key targets at Fordo are about 300 feet under?
One bomb isn't going to penetrate that. You're going to have multiple hits at the same spot. Drop a bomb, another B-2 comes in, drops another bomb in the crater of the first.
Another key question is, would a strike on the Fordo nuclear facility cause a large radiation leak? 3 experts who spoke to CNN say a radiation leak would probably be limited to the immediate area, and a strike would probably not pose the same kind of catastrophic consequences that bombing a nuclear reactor would. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Earlier, I spoke with Jennifer Kavanagh, a senior fellow and director of military analysis at the foreign policy think tank Defense Priorities. I asked her what U.S. involvement in this conflict could actually mean.
So I think it's probable that Netanyahu was hoping that if he started this war and was successful initially tactically against regime targets and other nuclear facilities, that the United States would see this as an opportunity to join in and to accomplish what has been a long-time U.S. goal of ending the Iranian nuclear program. I think it's important to note, however, that there's no guarantee that even if the United States does use these bunker buster bombs, it would finally eliminate Iran's enrichment capabilities or forever end its pathway to a nuclear bomb. That can only be accomplished by political means, not military means.
It's interesting you say that because Joe Cirincione, who is an expert on nuclear non-proliferation and all things Iran and all things nuclear program in Iran, he explained how these bunker busters actually work in any kind of attack on the Fordo nuclear site there in Iran. Here he is. Listen to this.
The first aircraft, a B-2 rather, is the only aircraft that can carry this munition, has to drop one in a precise location, followed by another B-2 who would drop another in the crater. And that might not be enough, so you might have to do it a third or a fourth time.
So, in the words of, the U.S. intelligence CIA boss from back in the Iraq days, it's not a slam dunk that U.S. involvement here would actually destroy the Fordo nuclear site completely.
Certainly not with airstrikes. There would have to be a ground component, some kind of ground raid, to ensure that that facility was fully eliminated and that Iran's stockpiles of highly enriched uranium were either rendered unusable or inaccessible. And right now, no one is talking seriously about about sending ground forces. So if we're relying only on air power, the chances are quite high that even with U.S. involvement, it would be impossible to achieve what Israel has set out as its strategic objective of eliminating, finally, this nuclear capability. And even if it was successful, if they were able to take out the facility and other facilities completely, there's still the matter of Iran's intellectual property. They figured this out once. They can figure it out again. The program might be delayed several years, even a decade. But it's only through political means and diplomacy that the challenge of Iran's nuclear weapons can be dealt with in a final and lasting way.
The Israeli military says its jets attacked the nuclear facility at Arak, which it says Iran could have used to try to develop nuclear weapons. An Iranian state news agency says no major damage was done. I want to bring in our international security editor, Nick Paton-Walsh, joining me now. Nick, this attack was during a series of raids overnight. We've seen the evidence that at least the ballistic weapons capability still exists in Iran. We've seen the evidence of that where Nick is, in Beersheba, in Israel. So there are still military and nuclear targets, one assumes, for the IDF. From those that you're speaking to and your sources, what can we expect next from Israel in Iran, particularly based on the latest rhetoric from Israeli officials, including the defense minister?
Look, I think the defense minister's comments will raise again the issue of the decapitation of the Iranian government. But I should just put in some context there that even if they did take the extraordinary decision or have the capability to kill the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, that doesn't suddenly spell an overnight end to the theocratic government of the Ayatollahs there, that he will be replaced possibly by his son, who appears to be doing some of the work already. And so it isn't a dictatorship in which the disappearance of one individual means everything crumbles. It's not Syria's Assad's Syria. And so I think it's important to put any move like that within that kind of context. It may well indeed exacerbate or, speaking to some experts yesterday, worsen the hardline nature of what Iran seeks. But it's the nature of the targets that Israel is openly talking about striking now that gives you some idea how far down their target list they necessarily are. Hitting the Arak heavy water facility, look, that's something which many experts believe was no longer involved in any potential chase of a nuclear weapon. Yes, it could have been involved in the creation of plutonium, giving another path toward the bomb, but ultimately it seems to have been inactive. So the Israelis working through potentially parts of nuclear infrastructure that people accept are not actually a potential imminent usable threat right now, potentially removing things that could be a problem down the line and removing Iran's ability to pursue anything nuclear for decades. They appear also too to have destroyed between a half and about 2/3 of Iran's missile launchers. So that takes out of the equation potentially the scale of the volleys that Iran can fire at Israel. What got through last night may have been a new type of device, may have been a particularly bad night for Israel's air defences. Injured at that hospital certainly too, and horrific scenes for the Israeli public to endure, but not a marked change in the sort of lethal casualties Iran was able to inflict on Israel. So Iran clearly working with a much reduced military capability here, and so that puts into question how long, frankly, Tehran can have this conflict go on and not potentially experience some kind of existential crisis in its missile inventories, military infrastructure if it keeps being hit like this, and its political command. Becky, I should point out, in a week since this began, they're now on their third commander of the IRGC's ground forces, the Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's the pace in which new leaders are being taken out. Unimaginable, frankly, just a month ago. And so I think many eyes now look towards tomorrow and Geneva, where the European Union's E3, as they're known, UK, France and Germany, along with the EU foreign policy chief, are meeting with Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. Now, that may well be something which is an entire separate sideline. I was speaking to one Western diplomat who knows what's going on in those talks and said that they'd be happening in consultation with the United States. Indeed, David Lammy, the UK Foreign Secretary, I think, is meeting with Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, just today, but described the talks as something which would be used to kind of feel the room and work out, indeed, what is possible. But I think it's possibly diplomacy here, however bad the deal Iran has to accede to is, that give them possibly a chance of slowing the Israeli onslaught. But ultimately, with Israel having control of the skies over Iran and the ability to hit what it wants at will, why would they necessarily stop now? I think the weakness of Iran is what's going to, the dynamic that's going to dictate the duration of this.
Nick Payton-Walsh is our chief security editor out of London for you today. Nick, thank you.